Quietly, the humans departed. Part 1. The Great Hall of the Galactic Council was beautiful. Crystal pillars rose toward a ceiling that showed the stars themselves. Representatives from 47 species sat in floating chairs arranged in a perfect circle. In the center, a platform of pure light waited for whoever wished to speak. Ambassador Dowan had stood on that platform many times in his 60 years of service. Today, his bones ached as he rose from the human section, the smallest and lowest section in the entire hall. He was 73 years old, and he was very tired. The Velthari High Counselor, a tall being with silver skin and 4 arms, waved one hand lazily. The human wishes to speak again. How amusing. Let him talk. Do-Wan walked slowly to the platform. Behind him sat his small team. Counselor Tai, young and bright-eyed, still believed the galaxy could change. She was only 32. She would learn. Honored members of the council, Do-Wan began. His voice was calm and steady. 300 years of practice had taught humans to hide their feelings in this place. I must once again raise the issue of the agricultural technology developed by human scientists on Colony 7. A wave of sighs moved through the hall. The Kolvani trade minister, a heavy creature covered in blue scales, actually laughed out loud. Do-Wan continued as if he had not heard. This technology was created by humans, funded by human resources, and tested on human worlds. Yet this council voted last month to give exclusive access to the Velthari Empire and the Kolvani Federation. Our own colony worlds, 3 of which face serious food shortages, were denied access to technology we ourselves created. The decision was made fairly, the Velthari High Counselor said. He did not even look at Do-Wan. Humans are a young species. You do not understand how resources must be distributed for the greater good. Respectfully, Do-Wan said. Our people are hungry. Then they should work harder. This came from the Mendari representative, a small creature with too many eyes. Humans always complain. You have been part of this council for 300 years, yet you act like children. Tihi's hands tightened into fists. Do-Wan saw this from the corner of his eye. He gave her the smallest shake of his head. Not here. Not now. I withdraw my complaint, Do-Wan said quietly. I thank the council for its time. As he walked back to his seat, he heard the Velthari ambassador whisper to his neighbor, loud enough for everyone to hear. Short lifespans and shorter memories. They will forget this insult by next week. They always do. Several species laughed. Do-Wan sat down. His face showed nothing. Inside, something that had been bending for 300 years finally broke, far above the council chambers. In orbit around the station, Captain Yuna stood on the bridge of her ship. The vessel was called the Peaceful Dawn, and it was the flagship of Earth's diplomatic fleet. It was not a warship. Humans had never been allowed to bring warships to council space. Yuna was 45 years old, with gray appearing in her black hair. She had served in space for 20 years, always smiling, always polite, always representing humanity with grace and patience. Today, she was not smiling. Her communications officer, a young man named Junho, turned from his station. Captain, we have received an encrypted message from Earth Command. Priority 1. Priority 1. Yuna had never received a Priority 1 message in her entire career. Send it to my private terminal, she said. And Junho, delete all records of this transmission. Junho's eyes widened slightly, but he was a good officer. He asked no questions. Yes, Captain. In her private quarters, Yuna read the message 3 times. It was only 4 words long, followed by a code that confirmed it came from the highest levels of human government. Begin protocol. Quiet dawn. She sat very still for a long time. Then she opened a secure channel and began sending messages to every human. Ship captain in council space. Back in the council chambers, Tae caught up with Ambassador Do-hwan in the corridor outside. Her young face was red with anger. "Ambassador, how can you accept this? They laughed at us. They took our technology, and they laughed at us." Do-hwan kept walking. His steps were slow and measured. "Yes, they did. We should demand respect. We should threaten to leave. We should do something." Do-hwan stopped. He turned to look at her, and for a moment, Tae saw something in his old eyes that she had never seen before. It was not anger. It was not sadness. It was peace. "Tae," he said gently, "what do you think would happen if we threatened to leave?" She thought about it. They would laugh at us more? Yes, and then? They would ignore us. They would call our bluff. They think we need them. Do-hwan smiled. It was a strange smile. "Do we need them, Tae? Do we really?" Before she could answer, Do-hwan's personal device made a soft sound. He looked at it. His smile grew wider. "Go back to your quarters," he told her. "That's only what matters to you. Be ready to leave within 1 week." Tae stared at him. "Ambassador? We are not going to threaten to leave, Tae. We are not going to demand anything. We are simply going to go." He started walking again, quietly, without anger, without announcements. "We will just go. But the council will survive without us. Or it will not. That is no longer our concern." That night, alone in his quarters, the Do-hwan removed his diplomatic insignia. It was a small golden pin in the shape of a human hand reaching toward the stars. He had worn it for 60 years. He placed it carefully in a wooden box that had belonged to his grandfather. Through the window, he could see the stars. Somewhere out there, past the council's borders, humanity had been quietly building, quietly preparing, quietly waiting for the day when patience finally ran out. 300 years, Do-hwan said to the empty room. That is long enough. Across the galaxy, in human offices and human homes, in human ships and human stations, people were receiving messages. The messages were short and simple, sent through channels that the council had never known existed. "Come home. It is time." No one argued. No one asked questions. For 300 years, humans had smiled and served and waited. Now, without a single raised voice or angry word, they began to leave. The council did not notice. Why would they? Humans were unimportant. Humans were weak. Humans would always be there, quiet and patient, doing the work that nobody else wanted to do. They were wrong. Quietly, the humans departed. Part 2, Dr. Sujin had worked at the Galactic Power Grid for 31 years. She was the chief engineer, responsible for keeping energy flowing to 400 worlds. Every day, she woke up at 5 in the morning, checked 3,000 different systems, fixed problems that nobody else understood, and went to bed knowing the billions of beings would have light and heat because of her work. Her Valkyrie supervisor had never once said thank you. Today, Sujin was training her replacement. His name was Krevith, and he was a young Corvani with bright blue scales and a permanent expression of boredom on his face. This console controls the main distribution network, Sujin explained. If you see any red warnings, you must respond within 30 seconds or entire sectors could lose power. Krevith yawned. Yes. I understand. It is not complicated. Sujin paused. Have you read the manual I wrote? I looked at it. 3,000 pages seems excessive for simple power distribution. Sujin nodded slowly. She did not argue. She did not explain that those 3,000 pages contained solutions to problems that had taken her decades to solve. She simply said, I have left copies in the main database. If you have questions after I leave, the answers are there. I will not need them, Krevith said confidently. But thank you for your concern, human. Sujin smiled. It was a gentle smile, without any anger in it. Good luck, Krevith. She walked out of the control room for the last time. She did not look back. On Trading Station 12, Sergeant Hyunwoo was packing his personal belongings into a small bag. He had served as a security specialist for 15 years, keeping the station safe from pirates, smugglers, and the occasional terrorist threat. His Mandari colleague, Officer Thrix, watched him with amusement. Leaving so soon, human? I thought your kind enjoyed being servants. Hyunwoo continued packing. My contract has ended. I am returning home. Home? Thrix made a sound that might have been a laugh. What will you do there? Humans are too fragile for real security work. Too soft. Too emotional. Perhaps you are right, Hyunwoo said mildly. Of course I am right. We Mandari have protected this station long before you arrived, and we will protect it long after you are gone. Hyunwoo picked up his bag. He looked around the security office one last time. At the defense grid controls that only he knew how to maintain. At the early warning systems that he had personally upgraded. At the emergency protocols that he had written. The defense grid needs recalibration every 90 days, he said. The manual is in the system. Thrix waved a dismissive appendage. We do not need your human manuals, of course. Hyunwoo walked to the door. Goodbye, Officer Thrix. Good luck. Thrix did not bother to respond. On a small green world called Verdani Prime, a human teacher named Myra was saying goodbye to her students. They were young Corvani children, barely 10 years old, with scales that had not yet hardened and eyes that still held wonder. One of them, a small female named Drella, was crying. Teacher Myra, why do you have to go? Myra knelt down to look at her. I have to return to my own people, little one. But you will have a new teacher. A Corvani teacher, like yourself. I do not want a Corvani teacher. I want you. Myra hugged her gently. You will be fine, Drella. You are very smart. Remember what I taught you about being kind to others, even when they are different from you. Drella nodded, tears still falling. I will remember, Teacher Myra. I will always remember. Outside the school, Drella's mother was waiting. She was a large Corvani female with hard scales and cold eyes. She watched Myra walk out with complete indifference. Finally, she said to another parent, I was tired of having a human teach our children. They fill their heads with strange ideas about equality and kindness. The other parent nodded. There are plenty of proper teachers. Good riddance to the human. Myra heard them. She said nothing. She simply walked to the transport station and boarded the last shuttle, leaving the planet Dot in the Great Council chambers. Ambassador Doan stood before the assembly for the last time. He held a single sheet of paper in his hands. Honored members of the council, he said, I am here to formally request humanity's complete withdrawal from this body. The hall went silent, not because they were shocked or sad, but because they were surprised that humans had finally admitted defeat. The Velthari High Counselor leaned forward. You wish to leave? After 300 years? Yes, we find that our philosophical differences with the Council are too great to continue. Philosophical differences. The High Counselor smiled with all four of his mouths. What a polite way to say that you have failed to earn your place among the greater species. Do-Hwan did not react. Will the Council accept our request? A vote was called. It took less than 2 minutes. 46 species voted yes. One species, the small and quiet Ilari, voted no. They had always been kind to humans. They would regret this vote later. The motion passes, the High Counselor announced. Humanity is hereby released from all obligations and privileges of Council membership. You have 30 standard days to remove all human personnel from Council space. Several species applauded. Do-Hwan bowed. Thank you for your time. We wish the Council well. He walked out of the chamber. Tae-hee was waiting for him in the corridor, her bags already packed. "It is done," Dowan said. "Let us go home." 2 weeks later, Captain Yuna stood on the bridge of the Peaceful Dawn as it crossed the border out of Council space. Behind her, a fleet of 300 human ships followed in perfect formation. They carried scientists, engineers, teachers, doctors, soldiers, and families. They carried 300 years of knowledge and experience. They carried the quiet, patient people who had held the galaxy together without anyone noticing. Her communications officer, Junho, looked out at the stars. "Captain, do you think they will understand what they have lost?" Yuna watched the Council's border beacons fade into the distance. "Not yet, Junho, but they will." "When?" She thought about Dr. Sujin's power grid, about Sergeant Hyanwu's defense systems, about Teacher Myra's small students, about the 1,000 invisible things that humans had done every day for 300 years. "Soon," she said. "Very soon." The last human ship crossed the border. The beacons flickered once, twice, and then went dark dot in Council space. Life continued as normal. The Velthari celebrated. The Kovani congratulated themselves. The Mandari laughed at human weakness. Nobody noticed that the translation systems had started to slow down. Nobody noticed that trade routes were taking slightly longer. Nobody noticed that the refugee centers had stopped accepting new arrivals. Not yet, but they would. Quietly, the humans departed. Part 3, 18 months after the humans left. The Galactic Council held an emergency meeting. For the first time in centuries, the Great Hall was not beautiful. Half of the crystal pillars had gone dark because nobody knew how to fix the lighting systems. The floating chairs kept malfunctioning, dropping important delegates onto the floor. The star display on the ceiling showed only static. Velthari High Counselor Dravith stood in the center of the room, his silver skin pale with stress. He was shouting, which was something he never did. "Why was I not informed?" he demanded. "Why did nobody tell me that the translation system was built by humans?" His advisors exchanged nervous glances. One of them, a young Velthari named Selvith, stepped forward carefully. "High Counselor, the humans built many things. We assumed that when they left, we could simply continue using their systems." "Continue using them?" Dravith's forearms waved wildly. "The system is failing. Yesterday, the Kavani trade delegation thought I called their mothers diseased animals. I was trying to say good morning. The translation algorithms are very complex, High Counselor. Our best scientists have been studying them, but human mathematical systems are different from ours. It may take decades to fully understand." "We do not have decades." Across the galaxy, similar conversations were happening. On Trading Station 12, Officer Thrick stood in the security office, staring at screens full of error messages. The defense grid had failed 3 months ago. Pirates had raided the station twice since then. "Where is the manual?" Thrick shouted at his subordinates. "The human said there was a manual." "We found it, officer. But it is written in technical human language. We cannot understand most of it." Thrix kicked the console in frustration. It sparked and went dark completely. "Contact the humans," he ordered. "Tell them we need help." "We tried, officer. They do not respond to our messages." On Verdani Prime, the agricultural district was dying. The crops that had fed billions were withering in the fields. Kovani scientists stood among the dead plants, arguing with each other. "The soil composition is wrong," one said. "We need to adjust the nutrients. We have been adjusting for months. Nothing works." The human techniques were simple. Just add water and certain chemicals. We have added water and chemicals. The plants still die. What they did not understand was that the human agricultural methods were not simple at all. Dr. Sujin's 3,000-page manual would have explained about bacteria. soil health, seasonal cycles, and 100 other factors that humans had spent decades learning. But no one had read the manual. It was still sitting in the database, untouched. The famine began slowly. First, prices increased. Then, rationing started. Then, people began to starve. In a refugee camp on a moon called Shelter 7. A young girl named Yuri sat alone in her small room. She was 12 years old, with black hair like her human mother and blue skin like her Kolvani father. Her mother had left with the other humans 18 months ago. Her father had refused to go. "We belong here," he had said. "This is our home. The humans are making a mistake by leaving." Now, her father spent most of his time standing in food lines that grew longer every week. The refugee camp, which humans had built and operated for 2 centuries, had stopped accepting new arrivals. The systems were broken. Nobody knew how to fix them. Yuri held a small device in her hands. It contained the last message from her mother. "My darling Yuri, I am so sorry I could not take you with me. Your father made his choice, and I had to respect it. But I want you to know that when you are ready, we will be waiting for you. There is always a place for you among your human family. Always. I love you more than all the stars in the sky. Mom." Yuri played the message every night. Sometimes she cried. Sometimes she just stared at the ceiling and wondered what her mother was doing. Far away in human space. In the council chambers, Counselor Dravith received reports from across the galaxy. Each report was worse than the last. The medical stations had run out of human-developed medicines. A plague was spreading through Korvani space, killing thousands every day. Human doctors had created a cure decades ago, but the formula required equipment that only humans knew how to build. The trade routes were in chaos. Humans had created the optimization algorithms that made galactic commerce possible. Without them, ships took 3 times as long to reach their destinations. Goods rotted in cargo holds. Prices increased by 1,000%. The refugee relocation network had completely collapsed. Millions of displaced people had nowhere to go. Wars were starting over living space. "This is impossible," Travis whispered, reading the reports. "How could one species be so important? They were the weakest among us, the youngest. They had no great armies, no advanced weapons, no powerful fleets." His advisor, Selvith, spoke carefully. "Counselor, the humans were not important because of strength. They were important because of what they did. They built systems. They created connections. They solved problems that nobody else wanted to solve." "Why did nobody else solve these problems?" Selvith was quiet for a moment. "Because the humans always did it for us. They asked for nothing in return. We assumed they enjoyed serving." Dravith slammed his hand against his desk. "Then we must bring them back. Send a message to human space. Tell them we demand their return." "Counselor, we have sent many messages. The humans do not respond." "Then send ships. Find their leaders. Tell them that the council orders them to return." Selvith hesitated. "With respect, High Counselor, the humans are no longer part of the council. We have no authority over them." Then offer them something. Money, technology, whatever they want. "We have tried. Their borders are closed. Their ships turn back anyone who approaches." Dravith stared at his advisor with all 6 of his eyes. "Are you telling me that we cannot force the humans to help us?" "I am telling you, High Counselor, that the humans have made their choice. And unlike us, they seem to have prepared for this moment for a very long time." That night, young Yuri looked up at the stars from the window of the refugee camp. Somewhere out there, beyond the borders of council space, her mother was living a new life. The humans were building something, growing something, becoming something. And here, in the great and powerful Galactic Council, everything was falling apart. For the first time in her life, Yuri understood what her mother had tried to tell her. The council had treated humans like servants, like children, like people who did not matter, but humans had mattered. They had mattered more than anyone knew. And now that they were gone, the council was finally beginning to understand the price of their contempt. Yuri made a decision. She would find a way to reach human space. She would find her mother. She would go home, but first, she would have to survive. And in the dying remains of the Galactic Council, survival was becoming harder every day. Quietly, the humans departed. Part 4. 3 years after the humans departed, a small Kovani ship approached the border of human space. Inside, a diplomat named Velthos sat alone, practicing his speech for the 100th time. He had been chosen for this mission because he was young, humble, and had once worked alongside humans. The council believed that he might succeed where others had failed. Velthos was not so sure. His ship slowed as it reached the border. Ahead, a line of human vessels waited in perfect formation. They were not warships, but they were clearly capable of defending themselves. The largest one moved forward to meet him. Kovani vessel, this is Fleet Admiral Jisoo of the Human Federation. State your purpose. Velthos took a deep breath. Admiral Jisoo, I am Diplomat Velthos of the Galactic Council. I come in peace with a message from High Counselor Dravith. There was a pause. Then the Admiral's voice returned, calm and cold. We are aware of your mission, Diplomat Velthos. You may transmit your message. You may not enter human space. Admiral, please. I must speak with your leaders directly. The situation in Council space has become desperate. Millions are dying. We need human help. Another pause. Longer this time. Transmit your message, Diplomat. We will consider it. Velthos sent the message. It was long, detailed, and full of apologies. High Counselor Dravith had written it himself, which was unprecedented. It promised equal partnership, full voting rights, and complete respect for human dignity. It begged for human return. He waited. Hours passed. Then days. Finally, a response came. It was a single sentence. We fulfilled every obligation. You released us from all others. This conversation is concluded. The human ships turned away. The border closed. Velthos sat in his little ship, alone, and wept. On a green world called New Sol, former Counselor Tihi was working in her garden. She was 40 years old now, with gray in her hair and peace in her heart. The garden was small but beautiful, full of vegetables and flowers that she had planted with her own hands. A young human official approached her carefully. Counselor Tehi, there is a delegation from the council waiting at the Federation building. They have asked for you specifically. They want you to help them negotiate with our government. Tehi continued pulling weeds. I am not a counselor anymore. I am a gardener. They say you understand both sides. They say you could help bridge the gap between our peoples. Tehi was quiet for a moment. She remembered the great council chamber, the crystal pillars, the floating chairs. She remembered the laughter, the insults, the centuries of disrespect. I spent 12 years trying to bridge that gap, she said finally. 12 years of smiling while they mocked us. 12 years of patience while they stole our work. 12 years of hoping that things would change. And now? Tahi looked up at the young official. Her eyes were kind but firm. Now I have a garden to tend. Tell the delegation that they had 300 years to listen. They chose not to. That is not my responsibility anymore. The official nodded and walked away. Tihi returned to her weeds dot in human space. Things were different. The cities were clean and bright. The farms produced more food than the population needed. Scientists made discoveries that would have been forbidden under council restrictions. Children went to school without fear. President Unbi, leader of the Human Federation, stood at the window of her office. watching a shuttle land in the courtyard below. It carried a special passenger. Admiral Jisoo entered the room and saluted. "Madam President, the refugee from Council Space has arrived. The one who crossed the border alone. The girl? Yuri?" "Yes, Madam President. She is 16 years old. Her mother was one of ours who left during the Exodus. Her father was Kovani." Yumbi nodded slowly. "Where is her mother?" "On Colony 7. She has been notified. She is on her way." "Good. And the girl?" "She is scared but healthy. She walked for 3 months through Council territory to reach a point where our ships could rescue her. She is very determined." Yumbi smiled sadly. "How many others are there like her? Children of mixed families, left behind because their alien parents refused to leave?" "We do not know exactly. Perhaps thousands. Perhaps more. We must find them. All of them. No child with human blood should be abandoned in that dying place." Admiral Jisoo nodded. "Yes, Madam President. We will begin searching." In a small room in the Federation building, Yuri sat wrapped in a warm blanket, eating real food for the first time in months. A kind nurse had given her clean clothes and medicine for her injuries. Everything was strange and new and wonderful. The door opened. A woman stood there, older than Yuri remembered, with gray in her black hair and tears streaming down her face. "Mom?" "Yuri, my baby. My beautiful girl." They ran to each other. They held each other. They cried together. "I came," Yuri whispered. "You said to come when I was ready. I came. I know, sweetheart. I know. You are home now. You are safe. You never have to go back." Outside, the sun was setting over New Seoul. The sky turned orange and pink and purple, colors that Yuri had almost forgotten existed. In Council Space, the skies were always gray now, filled with smoke from burning cities and dying worlds. But here, in human space, the sky was beautiful. And Yuri was finally home. Back in Council Space, High Counselor Dravith received the news of Diplomat Velthus's failure. He sat in his darkened office, surrounded by reports of disasters, wars, and famines. The Great Galactic Council, which had ruled 1,000 worlds for 10,000 years, was dying. How did this happen? He asked the empty room. We were the greatest civilization in the galaxy. How could we fall so far, so fast? His advisor, Selvith, stood in the doorway. "High Counselor, the answer is simple. We did not build our civilization. The humans built it for us. They maintained it for us. They held it together while we took the credit. And when they left, they took their knowledge with them. Then we must learn to do what they did." "Yes, High Counselor. But that will take time. Generations, perhaps centuries. The humans had 300 years to learn the secrets of running a galaxy. We have only begun." Dravith closed his eyes. "Do we have that much time?" Selvith was quiet. Outside, they could hear the sounds of distant explosions. Another war had started. Another world was burning. Another piece of the council was falling apart. "I do not know, High Counselor," Selvith finally said. "I truly do not know." In the silence that followed, both of them thought about the humans. The quiet, patient, hard-working humans who had asked for nothing but respect. The humans who had been laughed at, insulted, and dismissed. The humans who had simply walked away and, in doing so, destroyed an empire without firing a single shot. Quietly, the humans departed. Part 5. 10 years after the humans departed, the great council chamber stood empty. Dust covered the crystal pillars. The floating chairs had fallen to the ground and broken into pieces. The star display on the ceiling was dark and dead. Nobody came here anymore. The council itself no longer existed. It had broken into a dozen warring factions, each one blaming the others for the collapse, each one trying to survive in a galaxy that had forgotten how to function. A single figure walked through the empty hall. His name was Kelver, and he was a Velthari historian. He was very old now, with silver skin turned gray and 4 arms that moved slowly with age. He carried a recording device and spoke into it as he walked. "I am documenting the fall of the Galactic Council," he said quietly, "for future generations, if there are any, so they may learn from our mistakes." He stopped in the center of the room, where so many important speeches had been given. He thought about Ambassador Dowan, the old human who had stood here so many times, always calm, always patient, always ignored. "The humans never threatened us," Kelver said into his recorder. "They never demanded respect. They never raised weapons against us. They simply stopped giving us what we had never earned. And without their quiet labor, we discovered that we had built nothing at all. Everything we thought was ours had actually been theirs. We were rulers of an empire built by servants, and when the servants left, the empire crumbled to dust." He turned off the recorder and walked out of the chamber for the last time. In human space, things were very different. The Human Federation had grown beyond anyone's expectations. Free from council restrictions, human scientists had developed technologies that would have seemed like magic 10 years ago. Human cities stretched across dozens of worlds, clean and green and full of life. President Yunbi stood before a crowd of thousands, preparing to give a speech on the 10th anniversary of the departure. Beside her stood Admiral Jisoo, now retired, and Ambassador Dowan, now very old but still alive to see this day. "My fellow humans," Yunbi began, "10 years ago, we made a choice. We chose to leave behind a galaxy that did not value us. We chose to build something new, something better, something that belonged to us. Today, I am proud to say that we have succeeded." The crowd cheered. Yunbi waited for silence before continuing. "But I want to be clear about something. We left not in anger, but in sorrow. We returned to the galactic stage, not in triumph, but in hope. We do not celebrate the fall of the Council. We mourn it. Billions of innocent beings suffered because their leaders were too proud to treat us with basic dignity. That is a tragedy, not a victory." She paused, looking out at the faces before her. "Today, individual species from the old council have begun approaching us. They come not as conquerors or masters, but as equals seeking partnership. Some we have accepted. Others we have asked to prove that they have truly changed. This is not revenge. This is wisdom. We will not repeat the mistakes of the past. We will build a new galactic community based on mutual respect, not on one species serving another." The crowd applauded again. In the front row, a young woman with black hair and faintly blue skin wiped tears from her eyes. Her name was Yuri, and she was 26 years old now. Beside her sat her mother, gray-haired but smiling. Yuri had become an ambassador herself in the years since her escape from council space. Not to the council, which no longer existed, but to individual worlds seeking to join the human coalition. She told them her story. She told them about being abandoned, about struggling to survive, about finally finding her way home. "If I can be welcomed here," she would say, "so can you. Humanity does not care where you came from. They care about where you want to go." After the ceremony, Yuri found Admiral Jisoo and Ambassador Dowan sitting together on a bench overlooking the city. The old men were talking quietly, watching ships from a dozen different species dock peacefully in the harbor below. "May I join you?" Yuri asked. "Of course, child," Dowan said. He was 90 years old now, frail but sharp-minded. "Sit with us. Watch the future arrive." Yuri sat beside them. "Ambassador, may I ask you something?" "Anything." "When you decided to leave the council, were you angry? Did you hate them?" Dowan thought about this for a long moment. "No," he said finally. "I was sad. I had spent 60 years trying to earn their respect. When I finally understood that it would never come, I felt grief, not anger. Then why did you leave? Because we deserve better. Not revenge, not punishment for them, but simply a better life for ourselves. We were not running away from the council. We were walking towards something we wanted to build. Admiral Jesu nodded. The best revenge is a life well lived. That is an old human saying. We did not destroy the council. We simply stopped letting them hold us back. Yuri looked out at the harbor. A Kovani trading ship was docking alongside human vessels. Its crew waved at the human workers on the dock, and the humans waved back. Nobody pointed weapons. Nobody shouted insults. They were just people working together. Do you think the galaxy will ever be truly united? She asked. Dohan smiled his gentle smile. Perhaps. Perhaps not. But if it does unite, it will be because every species chose to join freely as equals. Not because one group conquered the others. Not because servants held the system together while masters took credit. Real unity comes from mutual respect, or it is not unity at all. That evening, a small memorial service was held for those who had not lived to see this day. Candles were lit for the humans who had died in council space, waiting for rescue that never came. Candles were lit for the alien innocents who had starved or died in wars caused by the collapse. Candles were lit for the dream of what the council could have been, if only they had treated all species with equal dignity. Ambassador Doman spoke the final words of the ceremony. His voice was weak but clear. We do not celebrate today. We remember. We remember the price of arrogance and the cost of contempt. We remember that kindness freely given can be freely taken away. And we commit ourselves to building a galaxy where no species ever has to walk away because they were not valued. The candles flickered in the evening breeze. Stars appeared overhead, the same stars that humans had watched for thousands of years. On a small balcony nearby, Yuri stood with her mother, looking up at those stars. Her mother had grown old, but her eyes were still bright. Mom, Yuri said, do you regret leaving me behind? Her mother was quiet for a long time. Every day, she finally said. Every single day. But I knew you would find your way to me eventually. You are my daughter. You have human blood. And humans never give up. Yuri smiled. No, we never do. Somewhere in the rebuilt galaxy, a child of two species, human and Corvani, asked her grandmother a question. The grandmother's name was Yuri, and she was very old now. With white hair and wrinkled skin, and eyes that had seen both the fall of an empire and the rise of something better. Grandmother, the child asked, why did the old council fall? What happened to them? Yuri looked at her granddaughter, at this perfect little being who would grow up in a galaxy of equals, who would never know what it felt like to be dismissed and mocked for her blood. They forgot something important, Yuri said softly. They forgot that the people who do the quiet work, the invisible work, the work that nobody notices, those people matter most of all. They forgot that kindness given freely can be taken away just as freely. And they forgot that the humble ones, the patient ones, the ones who smile while others laugh at them, those are the strongest ones of all. The child thought about this. Is that why humans won? Yuri shook her head. Humans did not win, child. Nobody won. The galaxy lost something precious when the council fell. But humans showed everyone that there is a better way. A way of respect and partnership and shared work. That is what we are building now. That is what you will help build when you grow up. The child smiled and hugged her grandmother. Outside, the stars were shining, as they always had, as they always would. And in the quiet spaces between those stars, the children of humanity were still building, still growing, still showing the galaxy what they had always known. That the quiet ones, The patient ones, the kind ones, were the ones who truly changed the universe. Not with weapons. Not with anger. Not with revenge, but simply by knowing their own worth. And by walking away from those who refused to see it.